Welcome in, everyone, on a Wednesday here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stepping by as we count down the days to the 2025 college football season. First will be, of course, August camp, and before that will be conference media days. We know that our friend Leanne Herring, who joins us, of course, for On the Move every Wednesday night, and lo and behold, guess what? It is Wednesday. So tonight, On the Move with Leanne Herring and myself taking your calls, 8:30 Eastern, but Leanne will be at Big 12 Media Days. So we will hopefully hear from her during that time. I believe that is July 8th is the start of Big 12 Media Days. Then the next week, the SEC cranks it up. I don't know. Just comes to mind some video that I posted regarding the SEC. May want to check that out. Anyway, the SEC got me a bit stirred up the other day. So we posted that video the other day. Check it out on the SEC's poor judgment and bad decisions that won't cost them. I'm not saying that won't cost them, but poor judgment and bad decisions by the SEC. And then the Big Ten gets going in Las Vegas the following week. That's July 22nd, 3rd, and 4th. So all the media days, I'm not understanding of what the ACC is doing right this second, but of course those are set and sometime during that time frame of early to late July. I appreciate you letting me take the day off on Tuesday. I was running some errands, but also having a quite enjoyable time. So it was nice from a number of standpoints. Not all errands, not all work, but got some fun in there as well. All right, we have left the call-in line there in the chat. I did want to get to one quote-unquote news item. I don't know that it's really a news item, but it's a fun one to toss around. And apparently we'll look at the article here, courtesy Yahoo Sports, in just a second, about somebody throwing around money at teams to win the national championship this year. We'll look at it, ask you a few questions concerning, I'll give my thoughts, and we'll break it down in regards to, are we looking at a wise hedge bet? And maybe wise and bet never belong in the same sentence. That is a possibility. That could be your take on it. Wise and bet never belong in the same sentence. I would have no issue with anyone saying that. That is probably the wise way to go. Keep your money, do something with it, invest in real estate. Don't bet on football games, especially when the establishment is keeping your first 10%. So that's how Vegas makes all the money. You understand that. They don't care how you bet. Sure, they would love it if Michigan's playing Penn State and 90% of the people take Michigan and Penn State wins the game and they win 90%. They get to keep all that money and not pay you out. But over time, they understand that the betting public is going to, you could throw darts. All you have to do is throw darts and hit 50%. Because you got two sides, whether it's a money line play or it's a play against the spread, you've got a 50% chance of getting selection correct, getting the bet right. That doesn't mean you're going to make money on it over the long haul. That doesn't mean you're going to just automatically make 50% back. And so you might as well just have the fun of betting because you're going to make 50%. No, it's more complicated than that, of course. But that's why they build all the fancy buildings, is because as long as they've got 50% bet on Penn State and 50% on Michigan, you're giving them $100 and they're keeping 9 or 10 of it. So if you win the bet, you get back. Usually it's, most of you are familiar with the -110 that you see next to a lot of bets. So if it's an even bet, let's say it's a point spread bet, most of the time it's a -110 on each side, which means you have to bet $110 to win 100, meaning they are keeping $10 of your money. They are keeping 10% of your money. I think it works out to 9% of your money. And so if you bet $100, because I've done that many times, bet $100 and I win $91. Where'd that $9 go? Goes to them. So they're already up 10%. As soon as you make out the ticket, they are up 10% already. They might be up 100%, but they're at least up 10%. So they can't lose. So they've obviously figured this out and know what kind of margins they need to pull. And as long as they generally get the betting public to bet 50-50 on each side, they're good to go. So we will look at that in just a second. But since we've got a couple calls coming in, we will honor those. And we will always, number one, if we have hosts from other shows here at the network calling, we would love to hear from all of our hosts, promote their shows, hear their take on their particular team. But we will always put them at the back of the line, number one. Number two, we will always give first in line status to people calling for a first time, or the first time maybe I recognize that they're calling, or maybe they haven't called for 5 years. Anybody who was calling 5 years ago, are you out there? It's funny what happens in this YouTube business is that if I just randomly pulled a video or a live stream from 5 years ago, I would see names on there that I've since forgotten about or maybe never knew about, but I would see probably 90% of the people are gone. And some of them just kind of pass through one time or 10 times and that's it, and they're gone. But a lot of these people, it's kind of interesting to note what happens to their interests, because they're fully on board. They support. Mark, love what you're doing. I watch everything, and then they're gone. And that's their prerogative. I have no issue with that. I kind of do the same thing, not necessarily with YouTube creators, although I guess I do. I'll go through a streak. I'm watching Candace Owens almost every day for 3 months, and then I don't watch for a year. And I don't even think about it. It's not like I made a conscious decision to not watch anymore. I just don't. And there's a zillion people out there like that. And then I'll run across a video like a year later and be like, oh, what happened to that guy? I really liked him. I liked his videos, but I forgot about him. So I get it. Before we take the calls, Steve Deace is going to be live Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So just want to make note of the time change there on July 3rd, Thursday. That is tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern time. So Steve can make it at 2. So we figure let's do the show at 2. So you'll see my shining face at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and Steve's going to make it shortly thereafter. So again, Steve Deace, Michigan Podcast. He's got his power ratings out for 2025. And I will need to look those over so I can carve those up and present him with some fallacies in his power ratings, because that's what makes it fun. So we do always appreciate Steve stopping by to break down college football with us. Michigan Podcast is where you can catch Steve with, of course, the Michigan Podcast, where you will see me show up from time to time, actually about 80% of the time, I believe, if not more. And then he's got the Bigger 10 with our guy, Aaron McIntyre, who's a first-class dude as well. They are phenomenal. They actually pump out the college football content, specifically Michigan, and then secondarily the Big Ten. And keep this in mind, they are up to much more important things throughout the day than we are here talking about college football. I actually have something started myself, much more important than talking about college football, but this is the fun stuff. Had somebody ask me the other day. All right, let's take the calls. Here we go. We got Luke on the line. Luke, what's going on today?
It's Luis, my boy.
I'm sorry, Luis. How's it going?
How's it going? How's it going, Mark?
Good.
Well,
How are you?
I'm good. I'm just getting out of work. I'm one of those people that I try to listen as much as I can, but due to responsibilities that we have out here, can't listen to all the time. But I do go to a couple of rewinds and go through a couple stuff that you do. I respect what you do. I talked to you a while back. I'm the one with the 5-hour rush and the Notre Dame chain one time.
Nice. I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So I just thought to give you a call, let you know, like I encourage what you're doing. I love the fact that you're broadening your voice of college football. You got a couple of my buddies that I go into X every now and then, Ryan Frabro and Ben. Great individuals, great young men, great way to represent Notre Dame. And I do want to ask you though, what is it that is shocking you right now with the Marcus Freeman era? Because I think you're around my age, where the Lou Holtz player that Notre Dame player they wanted, player they got. And it's starting to trend that way, where Notre Dame is is getting back to that elite status that they used to be?
Yeah, so I'm going to throw out some theories that may or may not be correct. One would be that Marcus Freeman is just a charismatic guy. He's the type guy that draws people to himself. He's very decisive. He's very strong. He's very uh, passionate, and he's very confirmed and established and entrenched in who he is and what he wants to do with these young men in leading a college football program. So he exudes a very confident, decisive, focused manner. So all successful coaches do that to some extent, but Brian Kelly did that in a different way that was detached, that was kind of distant. I don't know that, and there should, I'm sure, are college football players that are now in the NFL or on to their next phase of their career that would tell us that Brian Kelly connected with them and they had a great time with Brian Kelly and he was very personable. But just on the surface, Brian Kelly comes across as an old school college football coach that definitely is one of the best at knowing how to run an organization and run a roster and do all the nuts and bolts. But Marcus Freeman is showing that he is learning all of that very quickly and getting to that elite status when it comes to that. But he is also a man of character, passion. He connects. Obviously, his age probably has something to do with that as well, that it's not been too long, 15, 17 years, at least not that long for me. Now, for the kids he's recruiting, that seems like a lifetime because it is. But it's not been that long since he was playing major college football. So I just think that that's number one. And then I think Notre Dame's made a decision that college football is changing, and it's already changed. And if they want to continue to be relevant, now, in a sense, they are always going to be relevant regardless of their record because they've just established a brand and a history that is very unique in the sport and can be argued is the greatest in the sport, that they're always going to be relevant. So even when Bob Davie was churning out 7-5 seasons, they were relevant to a certain extent, but they want to be, it appears as though they have bought into, this is how we need to proceed to be competitive against the elite programs in the country. And they've taken that turn.
I think you're spot on that part. The Brian Kelly, I could agree to disagree with. You know what I mean? But
Okay.
the administration
In what way?
ain't nobody like Brian Kelly. Everybody know he was a businessman. Everybody knows that. Any Notre Dame person that you talk to,
Sure.
alumni, I mean, he was always out for himself, and that's just the bottom
Okay.
truth.
I thought that's what I said, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't say
okay,
he was
okay.
out for himself, but I said
Oh,
that
okay.
he was not, he was detached. I'm talking
Oh,
about
okay.
his relationship with the athletes. I was making a comparison between he and Marcus Freeman, that Brian Kelly is extremely competent in running a football program, but I don't see much evidence of him connecting with the athletes and being personable and being somebody that they, were
Yeah.
drawn to.
Oh no, I totally agree with you. I'm sorry, I totally misread that. Yeah, and the biggest part though it's exactly what you said, the administration, because they used to held their high up about the academics, and that was one of the reasons they ran out Lou Holtz, and I was because Lou Holtz was big, was becoming bigger than the University of Notre Dame. The fact that they changed that mindset and started backing up Marcus Freeman and the football program, I just feel like they needed the right person for the job order for them to be bought in, and especially with the season that Marcus Freeman had this past year, the question that was thrown at him in the Orange Bowl towards the end on being a minority and how he immediately said this is about the team. That's one of the beauties about Marcus Freeman, that he doesn't put the spotlight on himself, but on his players alone. And like you said, he can relate to them, he can elevate to them. And again, like I've talked in podcasts before, and a lot of people ask me, how is it someone like myself fall in love with the University of Notre Dame? When you have kids or you have individuals like myself, that the only thing that you have is hope in life. And unfortunately, the University of Notre Dame was my hope. The University of Notre Dame meant everything to me. Prop 9 was the biggest thing for me. Like just to have the ability to go to a university like that for what it stands for what it believes, the religion and everything was a dream that obviously I didn't fulfill. But I'm so glad that Notre Dame emphasizes the the life after football, because growing up, like you said, a lot of kids don't think about that until this situation. A lot of people, a lot of young men don't understand you're just a play away to never play again. And that's one thing that I as a coach, I as a role model, I as a person in the neighborhoods, I let the youth know, I let kids know, like, don't ever forget about your books. You know, your school is the most important thing. And the one thing is that even though we're playing players now, I just hope that these players don't forget that that education is also is a gold mine, and hope they are able to take advantage of that. But the University of Notre Dame is one of the most beautiful thing about them, and I always say it's heaven on earth. This past year was the first time that me and my son were able to go to South Bend, and it was one of those things where it's not a bucket thing; it's a dream come true, and I think a blessing from baby Jesus to allow me to experience that and finally fulfill at least walking the campus of Notre Dame.
Well, that's awesome that you're able to share that that love, that legacy, and you obviously are very passionate and convicted in your interests, and Notre Dame means so much to you. That's cool.
Yeah, it is, and I'm one of those. I'm one of those. I may not be like a couple of my buddies, but I love Notre Dame, and I respect those that love their universities and their institutions, their fan base. I mean, that's what makes college football beautiful. Like, to be honest with you, there is nothing better to wake up to hear the sounds and the bands go off early on a Saturday morning during the fall. You know what I mean? Or during the end of summer, and to look forward to see those big matchups, the big games. And that's why I don't want this whole. I would never want to see, and then unfortunately, money talks and BS walks, where the money's going to talk. You know what I mean? The money's going to take over. The institutions are going to fall in love with the money more than the tradition, the rivalries. I never want to see a Florida State go away. Florida State, Miami, Alabama, Auburn, Texas, Oklahoma. No, I want Notre Dame and Michigan back, and I definitely want Notre Dame to play Ohio State more often, because that's that little nugget that we got. That's the monkey that we got to get off our back. Um, it was, it was a one wonderful run that, yeah, Notre Dame did, but let's not do a 1 year wonder. We got to make this a multiple year. You know what I mean? Which I feel that under Marcus Freeman's coaching ability and his staff, we're building that to Notre Dame, restoring that part, to be competitive year in, year out, like the Ohio States, the Georgias, the Alabamas, and stuff like that. I just hope that a lot of us can keep on expressing our voice out there and use these type of platforms like yourself. And again, thank you for allowing some of us to come on your show and to say how much we love our schools or the reasons that we love college football. I love college football in general. Even though I'm a Notre Dame guy, I love college football. I love the Fresno State and Boise State. I'm from Fresno, California, so you best believe I'm gonna back up my Bulldogs. And I love seeing those underdogs go up against the big dogs and close to the upset, or becoming or doing those upsets like Boise did in the Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma. We cannot lose that. That's what makes college football a beautiful sport. And hopefully you guys are keep on allowing people like ourselves come on your show and express that, because I don't think people realize how close we are to lose all the rivalries and the matchups and all that stuff.
Well, fortunately, a lot of the matchups that you just mentioned, I can in no scenario imagine them going away, because they're huge rivalries that draw in money, and they're natural rivalries, and they're huge brands. So they're not going to tear those apart. But there's a lot of other ones that we've already seen go by the wayside. And as you mentioned, Michigan, Notre Dame no longer play. I think they've got a couple games scheduled here in about 5 years. But uh, you and I grew up watching Michigan, Notre Dame. That was outside of my own team, the game that I wanted to watch, usually more than any other game the entire season.
Yeah, that was actually the game that me and my brother was the day that, you're not my brother type of day. You know what I mean? You're my rival. That was the
Yep.
day that we would be like, hey, look, I love you, but today I hate the hell out of you, and you're your way, I'm my way, but we're going to watch this game together and talk all the ish we want all day long until the game's over. Until then, credit's due, one day pass, and after that, we stop the BS.
Nice. All right, buddy. Well, Luis, I appreciate you stopping by. And yeah, I remember you having an opportunity to call, I think because we did a late night show maybe 3 or 4 months ago. So I appreciate that. And yeah, we're going to be around doing this show, but we'll add to it as well. So to give you and others more opportunities to see us and talk to us.
Appreciate it, my guys. And hey, all you guys out there, how about them Irish? I told you, don't let Marcus Freeman get in it. And boy, he's in that poker table, all chips in. And how about them Irish? Let's go, Irish. We got some football coming up.
Yeah. Luis, have a good day, man.
You too.
Luis got me fired up there. Irish, yeah. Go, go, go. Woo. All right. Sean, I don't know that this comment is going to be top today, so I'll give it early nomination to comment of the day. And if you're unaware that we do a comment of the day, so am I. We don't do a comment of the day, but comments like this lead me to the thought that we should do a comment of the day. Sean writing here, what kind of dumbass prediction Mark gonna make this year? So I'm sure I'm gonna make many. Bring me to the table the individual that doesn't make any dumbass predictions, because if you make enough of them, you're going to make some dumb ones. So that is just basically a fact of life. So when you're doing what I do, you realize that when you make a string of great predictions that few people notice, and then when you make one bad prediction, a lot of people notice and they hold you accountable, which is fine. Makes no difference to me. My feelings are never hurt. So the dumbass predictions, let's see, if I make as many dumbass predictions this year, Sean, as I did last year, dumbass prediction number one last year was I picked Ohio State to win the national championship before the season started. Talk about a dumbass prediction. That is as dumbass as you can get, Sean. Dumbass. Picking Ohio State to win the freaking. When is that ever going to happen? And I picked it in August. That was dumb. Picking Ohio State to win the national championship. Oh my good, that was so stupid. Okay, that was number one. The other one would be that let's see, in the college football playoff. Let's see, I picked Penn State to beat SMU. I picked Texas to beat Clemson. I picked Ohio State to beat Tennessee. I picked Notre Dame over Indiana. Picked Ohio State to beat Oregon. Picked Penn State to beat Boise State. Notre Dame to beat Georgia. Let's see, I picked Texas to beat Arizona State. Picked Ohio State to beat Texas. I took, let's see, Notre Dame over Penn State. Oh, and Ohio State to beat Notre Dame. When did I miss a game? Let's see. When did I miss a prediction during the college football playoffs last year? Where was the dumbass prediction? Where was that? I'm sure it was there somewhere. I think they played 11 games. That's 11 right. Where was the dumbass prediction? The dumbass I know it's there somewhere. There were probably 10 of them. I guess there were 10 other college football playoff games that were played that I'm just not remembering right now. I only remember 11, and I lucked out into hitting all 11 of those. Check the tape. All right. 80% against the money line, 60% against the spread. That's overtime. So I'm not saying I do this better than anyone else. If I do this better than anyone else, I'm a genius, because I give about 13 seconds of thought to each prediction. So I'm not telling you that I do this better than anyone else, but considering the amount of time I put into it, not an odds maker, not a handicapper, not a guy that analyzes the numbers. I just give it about 10 or 15 seconds of thought, make my predictions, boom, 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 knock them off. And Sean, we can have you maybe as a guest. We'll have you as a guest each week, and you can call out all my dumbass predictions, and maybe I'll make all my dumbass predictions, and then you can make all of your smart ass predictions, and we can compare those. We can do that. So, yeah, that's what's too bad about the off season. No room to make any dumbass predictions, but I'll get to it as soon as possible. They'll be out there. They're out there right now. You know, Sean, we will give you like 10 hours of dumbass predictions coming up, because what I'm thinking about doing is before the season kicks off, let's see, we got week 0, maybe sometime that week, like on a Monday or Tuesday night. I think we're going to sit here, and I don't know that any more than like 6 people are willing to do this, but we will sit here all night. We're going to go week 0, pick all the games. Week 1, pick all the games. Week 2, pick all the games. Week 3, I'm going to pick all the game, and just mark them down, add them up, go through the entire season and say, boom, there it is. I picked all the games for the entire season. That's how it's going to turn out. And that may turn out a bit differently than what I'm doing right now, which is basically looking at teams and the schedules. And you're right, Sean, because out of 70 power conference teams, there's only about 45 to 55 that I hit the record dead on, or I'm off by a game. The rest of them, a lot of dumbass predictions. Yes. I know you had Arizona State winning the Big 12 and going to the playoffs last year. I made a dumbass prediction on Arizona State. Absolutely, I did. Whatever I picked them, 4-8, 5-7. Dumbass prediction. There's one right there. Indiana. I did not pick Indiana to go 11-1. Dumbass right here. Dumbass. How did I miss that? Didn't see Indiana going 11-1. Dumbass. Don't watch me anymore. Dumbass. Just a lot of dumbass predictions. All right. We've got Caden stopping by. Caden, what's going on?
Hey, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Hey, sorry about Sean's remarks. First
okay.
of all,
I'm the one spotlighting it, so I'm having fun with it.
Well, I mean, let me be honest. I've been watching your show for a while, and I wouldn't say your picks are really a dumbass pick. I'm the one who really had the dumbass picks. Let's be honest.
Everybody makes them.
No, I'm the one who you called out 4 times for making a dumbass decision of what I was going to say. And what I said, you basically beat me in every pick I had, in everything I said. All the point spreads I had laid out.
Well,
and
nice,
you beat me by it.
Well, that's certainly man of you to admit that. Not everybody is willing to do that. It's man enough.
Well, and particularly I say that is because there's something else I wanted to say on here, and particularly, and I know you got a lot of callers calling in, but I wanted to say the main subject of what I called college football is honestly soft. It's honestly soft, Mark, and I pointed this out 2 weeks ago to you and Leanne Herring 2 weeks ago on the On the Move show. By the way, please everybody check out with Mark and Leanne, 2 great individuals. But it's like, where's the guys that will shake a college football program to its knees? Like, where's the era of the scariest guys to come in the locker room and actually play for a university like Junior Seau? Guys who I grew up in and I watched. Like, it seems like colleges are scared of recruiting these guys, and they don't want that attitude brought in. And to quote the words of John Gruden on a college football campus visit, you know, make your opponents have nightmares. Like, can we just have some of these guys or somebody like Terrell Suggs, Junior Seau, Sean Taylor, guys who made impacts but also scared the living daylight out of anybody and everybody they played at their respective colleges? No, they don't mess around. They don't fuck around. You know what I mean? But it seems like college football doesn't want the era of the scariest guys that'll knock out a quarterback or a receiver out. They don't want those guys because it's bad. It's bad money. No, it's not bad money. It's just you guys are scared because you're afraid of all those medical bills racking up. Because you know what's the cost of that, in my opinion. Now that's just me, Mark, for playing old school high school football, but that's just me.
So I know what you're talking about to a certain extent there, Caden. I think for any of us that have watched college football or even the NFL, watch football at a high level for a long time, see the difference between the type of hits that go on a typical Saturday now versus what we used to see. And so there is a big difference. But we also have to acknowledge that the rules have changed. So guys can't take those kind of shots anymore.
I understand that, Mark, but that's the problem. That's the problem I'm telling people, is that there's no longer the era of the greatest players who stepped forward on a campus ground that made their respective programs better, that paved the way for guys to come in and play with the same mentality, the same discipline, with the same kind of mentality and the same kind of physical attitude. It's not just mental, it's also physical. It's, can you really bring it? Do you have the balls to bring it to the locker room, to the game? Do you have it in the weight room? That's the question that they were leaving to all the youngsters like myself and anybody else who decided to play college football. But it's like at the same time, the NCAA had to change all the rules, and then all of a sudden, they're like, "Oh, this is a death move. Like, we'll find a player for hitting him that hard. It's football. What do you expect?" And the NCAA is just scared. They're scared. They don't want guys that are just freaks of nature to come into a game. They don't want them to step up and make an impact. If you got to hit the guy so hard, so be it. Hit the guy as hard as you can. I mean, I'm saying as somebody who played high school football, Mark. You know, I've hit a lot of people in my life. But, you know, with the NCAA and with the whole entire college football network, it's honestly sad to see that. They're a bunch of pussies, and they're scared.
Well, thank you, Caden, for the call today. We will talk to you soon, sir.
Yeah, Mark, we'll see you later, and go Bucks.
All right. Caden's been beating this drum now for a few weeks. So we'll give him one more opportunity. All right, we got Dependent. No, this is Defiant showing up here. Defiant, what's going on today?
Nothing much, Mark. Nothing much. Hey, if you're calling yourself a dumbass for Indiana not making the playoffs, then I should be called a dumbass too for being a fan of them and saying they're not making the playoffs last year. Because, yeah, the season that we had last year, I would say, is an anomaly. I don't think it will ever happen again right now, at least. Because, you know, first-year head coach, all new staff, bunch of transfers and everything like that. That was just an incredible season. I think it's very rare it's going to happen, and probably a one-hit wonder for right now, at least.
Yeah, well, anytime somebody criticizes me in a certain manner, I just like to have fun with it. I was just enjoying myself there. But I certainly have no issue with people calling me out because that's why I'm here. But yeah, so that's fine. I think Indiana is actually going to have a really nice season this year. I just posted an Indiana video, and they just had me on the Indiana show the other night. We had a good time talking about the Hoosiers' chances this year because their hosts believe they're going to go 11-1. I'm surprised that they think they're going to lose a game.
Hey, at least they're being optimistic. You know, I'm a very optimistic person too. I have them going 10-2. You can probably figure out who I got them losing to in that schedule. Because I would say it's a little bit tougher because you are playing Oregon, Penn State, and you're going to Iowa compared to last year's schedule where your toughest game was at Ohio State all year. So, I mean, the schedule this year is a little bit more difficult. And I got them losing to Oregon and Penn State because I believe those two are the better teams on their schedule. And they're, I believe, both on the road. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to win at Happy Valley and I think, Eugene. But I do have them beating Iowa at Kinnick. I think Iowa is a beatable team compared to those two.
Oh, sure they are.
So I mean, yeah, I got him 10-2. I mean, I still got him in that playoff contention, depending on, again, I don't know how the season's gonna shake out, who's gonna be like the Group 5 champion and all that. But I think they have a great chance of making the playoff again this year. I mean, this year they're expected to kind of contend for this playoff compared to last year.
Yeah, the more I delved into Indiana, the more I was impressed with what they'd acquired along the offensive line to solidify what they already had there when they brought in Pritchett from Alabama and Coogan from Notre Dame, and that their best defensive players, who are not typical Indiana best defensive players, they are legit borderline All-Americans, all-conference type of players at each level are back. And I really like the quarterback acquisition with Fernando Mendoza.
Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at last year, that Ohio State-Notre Dame game kind of exposed the lack of a little bit of talent that they still needed to get this year in this offseason. So again, yeah, I like what they've been trying to do and try to solidify the offensive line, because that offensive line did get pummeled in that playoff game and against Ohio State. And you can see how they were struggling a lot in that Notre Dame game. So, I mean, yeah, you try to bring in a guy that could replace Curtis Warwick, and I believe Mendoza is going to be a favorite next year to do, to compete for that job and potentially, do something good for Indiana.
Well, I learned something in talking to our Indiana guys, because I really like Mendoza, and that's just simply from watching him play 4 or 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
I never imagined that he was a high-level NFL prospect, and they let me know that he is actually being considered, if he comes through with a nice season, like a top 10 or 15 selection in the NFL draft.
I did see that as well. And again, I didn't watch a lot of Cal football last year because it was Cal. And again, I didn't know that, Mendoza was going to come to Indiana. So, I mean, I am watching a little bit more of his highlights compared against some of these ACC defenses and Auburn and everything like that. Yeah, he looks pretty good. And again, the system in Indiana should help him take that next level and become an NFL draft prospect. And you also got to look to like a wide receivers and a running back depth. I believe he's going to have more weapons here in Indiana to actually show off his true talent compared to last year at Cal. So it's going to be fun. I mean, we play a week non-conference schedule, so I don't know really how much challenge it's going to have.
You think it's a week one? Is that
Mark, when you play Kennesaw State and Old Dominion and some FCS school, you're expected to win those games.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't quite.
I know. I've seen you talk about their non-conference schedule and how bad it was, and you were saying how they should play some P4 opponents. So I know what your point is, Mark. I know what your comment is about that. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that right now. They should play somebody better than, I don't know, Illinois State or whoever their FCS opponent is, or against Kennesaw State. No offense to those schools. I'm just saying they probably should play a little bit more competition, because I know they canceled that Virginia series recently, the home and home in, I think, 2028 or 2029 against Virginia. I don't know what that's all about, but I saw they canceled that series.
Okay. Yeah, I was not aware of that.
So, I mean, they were scheduled to play a Power 4 team. They canceled it. Virginia didn't cancel it. They canceled it.
Virginia canceled it.
I believe Indiana canceled it. I don't think Virginia did. Okay. Yeah, I believe Indiana canceled that series against them. So I mean, Mark, we're trying to expand. We're trying to play better teams, but when you cancel a series against a Power 4 team, what is that really showing you? What is that telling you?
Yeah, well, in this day and age of college football and the way the playoff is set up, I don't necessarily blame these schools and teams, even though I'm calling out these ADs and calling them soft and telling them that they should be ashamed and embarrassed. It's all somewhat part of a bit of a just shock value. But I truly believe that there should be better games in college football, and that we shouldn't have this amazing disparity between Florida, who plays Miami and Florida State in a non-conference season, versus Indiana, Rutgers, Maryland playing no one. Like, we should probably not waste the time to turn on the lights and the power at the stadiums and just let Indiana play Illinois in week 4 and just say their record's 3-0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I know I'm going to use an example. I know Ole Miss and Wake Forest had a series going on. And I know Ole Miss canceled that series after blowing out Wake Forest. So I guess it comes down to who do you really want to play, and are they going to bring value to, like, you know, your schedule? Because you can make the playoff, I think, now with like 3 losses. You know, Clemson showed it. They won the ACC with 3 losses. Yes, if Miami would have beat Syracuse, Clemson would have been in that situation. But the playoff is showing now that if you just win your conference, it doesn't really matter how many losses you have. You can still make the playoff, per se.
Sure.
So I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm all for playing better competition. I'm all for playing, you know, a weaker opponent here and there. But when your schedule is filled with all that, how are these guys really going to get ready for the conference schedule, especially in a Big Ten, when you're playing, you know, good competition week in and week out?
So you're not in favor of Indiana's current schedule, and you don't really see where they have prepared themselves in the future to play difficult opponents.
Yes.
But we also know that their Big Ten schedule is going to be respected enough that it probably won't hurt them. Guess we could potentially have a situation where Indiana turns in a 6-3 or 7-2 record in the Big Ten one of these years. It could be this year, and they get compared to somebody else, either in the conference that they didn't play or somebody in the SEC in particular, and they get left out because they didn't play a good non-conference game. Could happen.
Yeah. That's what I'm just trying to say. Because again, I'm all for, again, if you want to play, you know, pay an FCS team to come travel to your stadium, you know, X amount of money. But, you know, I think if you just have one decent team on that schedule that's respected by the committee or by whoever, I think that can kind of help them in a case where they get compared to an SEC team or another Big Ten team.
All right, sir. Anything else you got for me?
Oh, no, Mark, that would be it.
Thanks, Defiant. Appreciate it.
No problem, Mark.
Have a good day.
You too.
It's our guy Defiant showing up, talking some Indiana football. They don't play anyone. Their schedule sucks. Their schedule sucked start to finish last year, but that was not their issue. At least 9 of those games. They played Ohio State, and they played Ohio State. Okay, they played Michigan. Michigan was decent. Okay, they played Nebraska. They were meh. They played Washington. They were meh. But they couldn't do anything about the Big Ten schedule, of course. But Indiana choosing to play no one is just a pathetic circumstance. Would love to have their athletic director on here to talk about their approach to scheduling. Because the excuse that some Indiana fans, I'm not saying all, I've heard this from some Indiana fans and fans of bad football programs give, is that, well, we get to schedule bad teams and high school teams non-conference because we're just trying to get to a bowl game. We're trying to build a program. We know we're in a position where we're basically going to get kicked around 7 out of 9 or 6 out of 9 Big Ten games. So we have to try to salvage the season by getting to a bowl game and kind of, as they like to say, no, I'm not going to use that cliche. Don't like it. I've never used it. I don't want to say that I ever did use it. So, you see where I'm headed. So, for example, there was a time when North Carolina State was keeping Dave Doran around despite going 3-5, 4-4, 2-6, 3-5, 3-5. His ACC record as of just a couple of years ago, his ACC record, Dave Doran at NC State, was 37% winning percentage. 37%. And he got to keep his job. Now, I will say since roughly 2020, North Carolina State has been a more successful football program. Not necessarily last year when they lost to East Carolina in a bowl game and went 6-7, but for about 4 years, they did pretty well. And he improved his numbers, but he was allowed to stick around for 7 or 8 years. But if you would have asked the average college football fan, and I'm sure most of you asked about NC State 5 years ago, would have made the statement, yeah, NC State's decent. They're okay. There's nothing wrong with them. Dave Doran's doing an okay job. They go 7-5 every year. They go to a bowl game. They win some of them. They go 8-5. No. They were not doing well. They sucked. His ACC record was 37% winning percentage. That's pathetic. No, but they had a formula that they'd go 3-5 in the ACC. They'd win 4 non-conference games against William and Mary and East Carolina and Richmond, etc. And they'd go 7-5 and go to a bowl game and just basically not make any waves. Nobody would notice them. Nobody would point them out as being terrible. And they'd make $3 million going to a bowl game. And that's what they did. And he was able to keep his job. And I called NC State out a couple times on some various videos. Now, since, like I say, 2020, more 9-4s sprinkled in there with decent ACC records. So I've backed off. Disputed National Champions is the book. Don't take my word for it. We have 20 or 25 direct reviews that are on Amazon. But more than that, we've received a lot of great support here on this channel and all the channels. And everybody has stated that has given me any sort of feedback that they really like the book. So give it a look. You can go to Amazon and look up Disputed National Champions, or just go to the Amazon link down in the description section. Ryan, let's answer this question coming in from Ryan. He's been a member for 2 months, and as a member, you get to take part in the Sunday night show. You also get to take part with me in the watch parties. We had our first one a couple weeks ago, Michigan, Ohio State 2021, and we have a poll out there. Check it out on the community page to determine our July watch party. And then we'll go with one more classic game in August. And then based on your feedback, based on your interest, we will determine whether we're going to do a watch party every week during the season. That's the intent, is we would love to do a watch party in season every week. So the games are on Saturday. Take a poll on Sunday, get together on Monday or Tuesday for a big watch party of the games that we just saw over the weekend. That should be a whole lot of fun. So please sign up. Ryan says, do you think with Wisconsin winning several recruiting battles recently that it'll save Fickell's job if they don't make a bowl? Well, I cannot speak for the brain trust at the University of Wisconsin. I will tell you what I would do is that, first of all, I would love to see what these recruiting battles are. I'm not keeping up with Wisconsin recruiting. So I know that we've had a flurry of recruiting traffic over the last week or so. And we will get to much of that tonight with Leanne Herring on the move, 8:30 Eastern. Give us a call. So we'll run through as much as we possibly can tonight. But in looking at Wisconsin's winning recruiting battles, be interesting to know how they're winning them. I would like to see what other schools are involved in those recruiting battles. So at the end of this season, if I am Luke Fickell's boss, I'm the administration, I'm the athletic director, the first thing that comes up is obviously the record. That's first and foremost. Name any team in the country that did not eventually go on to, let's say, win a national championship or do something significant in the playoff, and it's, what was their record? That is the first criteria. What is your record? So for me, against that schedule, if Wisconsin goes 7-5, he would probably be safe, because the next thing I would look at, see, I'm not just a record guy that, oh, if this coach meets this record, wins this number of games, he keeps his job. If he falls short, he loses his job. Hopefully, these administrators have more brains than that. They would be complete morons to make employment observations and rate and evaluate personnel and coaches based simply on their record. That's it. And we're done. We decided at the beginning of the season our coach had to go 8-4 or he gets fired. That's it. No, you start there, but you take into consideration injuries. Were they egregious? And unless they were extremely egregious, like worst in the country, like Oklahoma last year, then every team gets injured. That's part of the deal. I wouldn't give that a whole lot of consideration unless it was an outlier. What I would look at, in addition to the record, is how well did we compete? Every year, we can review the season and review teams across the country and see teams that go about 7-5, 8-4, and they're really not that good. They piece together a Dave Doran kind of season where they don't play anyone out of conference. They rack up a bunch of big wins or big scoring margins against bad teams. And then once they get into conference play, they beat everyone they're supposed to, which is fine, which is good. That's a good mark to give the head coach that they did not let down and lose to somebody that they were not supposed to lose to. However, how well did they compete against the best teams in the conference? And actually, some of Wisconsin's better games last year were against the better teams in the conference. When Penn State showed up at Camp Randall, they gave them a heck of a game and had a 3-point lead until Penn State got a pick six with about 10 minutes left in the game. Oregon, they took them to the wire. They should have defeated Oregon at home. So they played their two best games of the season against the two best teams on their schedule. Unfortunately, they let down against teams that are considered on their level. So I would look at that because, again, take any season, go through the teams that are like 8-4, 7-5, and you're going to see differences. You're going to see teams that are 7-5, 8-4, and they played really well against the best teams on their schedule. They took the best teams in the conference down to the wire. They played very competitively. Well, that bodes well for the future. But if you're going 7-5 and you just beat all the Purdue's and Northwesterns on the schedule and you're getting bludgeoned by anybody with a pulse on the schedule, then you have a huge gap. You are not meeting expectations. You are not building a program to a point where you are competitive. So that would be my evaluation. And then you get the recruiting piece here as well. So they're going to know at the end of the season, let's say Wisconsin misses a bowl game and the last game they play is the last weekend of November. They're going to have a pretty good read on their recruiting class for that year. So I would take all of those. What was our record? How well did we compete against the best teams in the conference? Are there any outlier, egregious situations that need to be taken into consideration, i.e. injuries? And number 4, how does this current signing class look? If Luke Fickell goes 5-7 and he's bringing in the 8th ranked recruiting class in the country, I know the guy is a capable football coach, so I would probably bring him back. But if he goes 5-7 and he's bringing in the 43rd ranked recruiting class in the country, and out of those 7 losses, they got blown out 5 times, he's not coming back. So that's my evaluation on how I would approach it. Doreen's here. Good to see Doreen. Doreen likes the snarly mark. Yeah, it just takes a little criticism to get me. I just enjoy it. I think it's fun. I think it's fun. Can you push some buttons with me? Yeah. I'm not going to be one of those people that say, oh, I'm adverse to any button pushing. No, nothing affects me. No, Of course, I'm human. So, and it's not the end of the world. It's football. So I usually, if you haven't noticed, love to take the sarcastic route in pushing back against criticism. Love to take the sarcastic path. Yeah, basically, the worst thing that you can say to me is to accuse me of saying something I didn't say. That's the thing I hate more than anything. It's having people that tell me, you said this or you said that. No, I did not say that. That's the worst thing you can do. But pointing out my bad predictions, sure. Go right ahead. Adam's stopping by. And I just got to go back here real quick because Doreen is just a joy. She is just a joy from a college football standpoint, a spiritual standpoint. If you want a good follow on X, follow Doreen. All right, now we got Adam with Mark. I myself am planning to have a great July 4th. I'm sure you all care about that. Mark, Drew Aller will spend July 4th not lighting fireworks, but throwing interceptions. Yeah, they'll probably have like a family picnic, and they'll compile the stats after the picnic, the family picnic, and cousin Jim. Oh, I got 3 picks on Aller, on Drew. I got him for 3 picks. And Uncle Bob's going to be, yeah, I got 2 picks myself on Aller. That dude, oh, that kid's a punk. He's terrible. You know what what probably gets said more than anything at the Aller family get together. And if for some reason some Drew Aller person, somebody from his family comes driving by one of our live streams and catches me talking about this, they'll probably be all over me, not knowing that Adam's the instigator and I'm just playing along. But yeah, that's probably the running joke at the Aller family get-togethers is that, oh, Drew, little Drew, he's got no class. He's got no class, little Drew. They probably nicknamed him, I don't know, Pick. Did they nickname him 38 Seconds? I don't know. Maybe they start singing the Notre Dame fight song in front of him. There's a lot of things, a lot of ways you could get under Drew's skin. Only one way you can get under my skin. Accuse me of saying something I didn't say. Hate that. All right, Penn State is done. Aller has no class. What are your thoughts on Georgia for this year? Well, we have released about 25 prediction videos. I have yet to do Georgia. So my initial thoughts on Georgia is that I think Gunnar Stockton is generally an unknown. I was neither impressed nor discouraged by watching him last year at the end of the season against Texas in the second half of the SEC championship game or against Notre Dame. I just think that they limited him and did not want him to mess the game up and did not allow him to really do much of anything. And he looked capable, but not exceptional. And of course, yeah, I'm just going to have to comb through Georgia because we know that they are loaded with layers of talent. They arguably have the best roster in college football. Statistically, they probably do. If you're just looking at pure numbers, pure talent ratios. But their offensive line did not play nearly as well last year as they had. That was by far the poorest offensive line showing. The defense was still generally outstanding. Notre Dame didn't do anything. Riley Leonard had like 2 busted play runs where there was a missed assignment. And other than that, he threw a touchdown on a slant right after the edge came around for Notre Dame and caused the fumble right before halftime. And Kirby Smart should have been packing it in for halftime. Instead, he truly thought that his team was going to drive down the field 85 yards, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's what he failed to do. He went for it, and that cost maybe a shot to get to the semifinal. So, yeah, Georgia's wide receiver play was at a Kirby Smart era low last season. Poor wide receiver play, led the nation in dropped passes. Really missed Brock Bowers. Oscar Delp's a really good player, but they missed Brock Bowers last year. So we'll have more on Georgia, but they'll be in the thick of things. They're being picked by most to be in the latter half of the top 10 in the country. I think that they're probably looking at a 10-2 season. Tonight on the Voice of College Football, we've got the Miami show at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with Cam Underwood from State of the U on the Miami channel. And we've got the On the Move show with Leanne Herring right here, 8:30 Eastern. And we will have the phone lines open for that. Listen to the College Football Show on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio as well, if you cannot catch us on YouTube. And there you go, On the Move tonight, 8:30 Eastern. Steve Day showing up Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So an altered show time on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Please like and subscribe. I guess we will get to this item since that's what we promoted. All right. I don't know where this gentleman came up with the figure of $615,000. I don't know why that was the figure, but as being reported by Yahoo Sports, we've got this bettor wagering $615,000 on Texas, Clemson, and Penn State to win the national championship. Okay, so let's weigh this out while we watch Eli Manning. Thank you for the information, Ben Fowkes, senior sporting betting analyst. Maybe we'll reach out to him, have Ben on. All right. So basically it breaks down pretty easily. We can see by the tweet here. So our guy, does he have a name or he's just a bettor? One bettor. Okay. We don't know who this guy is. So anyway. So he took $615,000. Why 615? I don't know. Oh, Clemson's got a little slant in there. Okay. He's generally banking on either Texas or Penn State to win the national championship, but he throws Clemson in there. $300K goes to Texas, $200,000 in the bet backing Penn State, and then the remaining $15,000 that seems to add up to, oh, it's $115,000. My apologies. $115 on Clemson. Okay. So this is a pretty measured play here. So the first thought is, if one of these teams wins the national championship, what is his return? Well, it's going to be roughly $1.5 million. So it appears as though he basically wanted to make sure that regardless of what team wins, that the payoff for him is going to be about $1.5 million. Texas wins, he wins $1.5 million. Penn State wins, Clemson wins the national championship. It's $1.5 million regardless. So he had to put different amounts down because Texas is the biggest favorite, followed by Penn State, followed by Clemson, out of the three teams that he is backing and believes have a shot to win. So number one, you make a prediction like this or a bet like this, you're obviously backing the teams that you believe have the best shot. And then point number two is you start doing the math. So all of us sitting here, what do we think the likelihood is that either Texas, Penn State, or Clemson are going to win the national championship? Who else can win the national championship? That's what it comes down to. Figuring out who else can win the championship? Well, I think Ohio State can win a national championship. I think Alabama could win a national championship, and Georgia, LSU. I don't think there's many teams that I really see realistically winning a national championship. There's only about 7. Who am I missing? Am I missing anyone who could win a national championship? The real MVP says Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. That's about where I am. LSU could have an outstanding season, but man, do I see LSU winning the national championship? Would I be shocked? No. Would I be a bit surprised? Yeah, I want to see that coach do it. Out of all these teams, of course, Dabo Swinney's done it. James Franklin, no. Steve Sarkisian, no. But there's only so many coaches left that have won a national championship. Ryan Day, Dabo Swinney. Is that it? Harbaugh's gone. Saban's gone. Orgeron's gone. Kirby, obviously. Kirby, Dabo, Ryan Day. That's it, right? We got 3 guys. Okay, Oregon, possibly. And then after we get past those teams, do we really think Illinois can win a national championship, or Indiana, or Oklahoma? They would be the next one in mind for me. It would be that layer of SEC teams that aren't supposed to be that good, but they have the talent. Like Texas A&M, wow, that is a long shot. But from a talent standpoint, do I think Texas A&M or Florida or Oklahoma can win a national championship? Well, I've got more faith in those schools and those rosters than I do Illinois or Indiana or Kansas State. Out of the Big 12, based on what we saw last year, most people would say Arizona State is by far the biggest threat in the Big 12. But they would have to win 3 playoff games. So in terms of likely, realistic, with a good, solid shot, I'm with DeReal, followed closely by LSU. And let's throw Michigan in there as well. I think Michigan could win a national. I think Michigan is in the top 10. Now, taking this in another direction, Matthew Miller says he's going to bet on every team in the Big 12. So that would be 13 teams to win the Big 12 championship, other than the 3 he lists there, UCF, Colorado, and Arizona. I don't know how that would pay out. Probably pennies on the dollar. I would rather snatch, again, I'd have to work out the math, but most likely in the Big 12, I would rather grab Kansas State, Arizona State, Texas Tech, Iowa State. I'd rather grab those 4 teams. Give me those 4 in the Big 12. Iowa State, Kansas State, Arizona State, Texas Tech. Give me those 4. You can have the rest of the conference. I know it's close, but I don't trust anyone to make it through all the way and win the Big 12 championship game. No, I think one of those 4 is going to win the conference. And I would not want to waste my money on Cincinnati and Baylor. Although a lot of people like Baylor, I would not waste it on Houston and Cincinnati. And now that Jake Retzloff will not be the quarterback at BYU, he's going to land somewhere. He's leaving school. They've kicked him out of school, apparently. And so BYU's quarterback situation is messy. From a paradox one, yes, Michigan is going to start the true freshman, I do believe, in game one. And I think that they should. Oh, well, I forgot about Notre Dame. See, Will, this is what happens when I come through conferences and Notre Dame's not in a conference. I completely forget they exist. It's like me when I'm sitting there watching football and I've got the entire day mapped out. And I know that, okay, got the noon games. And then late in the noon games, I'm looking at the 3:30 games. And some of the noon games turned out to be better. So I switched to those and I switched the other ones off because they sucked. And I go through that process. But then Notre Dame starting at 2:30 Eastern. There's been so many Notre Dame games through the years where even if they're playing USC, which to me, growing up, that was one of the biggest games of the year. I always wanted to watch Notre Dame and USC play. But when they're playing at 2:30 in the afternoon, so it's in the third to fourth quarter of the noon games. This happens almost every week for me that I forget Notre Dame's playing. Then about 4:15, I see a score go across the screen and I see Notre Dame 7, Purdue nothing, or whatever. And then I'm like, oh yeah, Notre Dame's playing. Same thing here. They're not in a conference. I'm scanning conferences in my head. Yes, Notre Dame would be another one to contend with. Out of the teams that this gentleman did not bet, which again, he's putting all of his money on Texas, Penn State, and Clemson. I think Ohio State has the best chance of winning a national championship out of everyone else. I think it's very close, but I would take Ohio State next. And then Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, Oregon, LSU before Oregon. And I'm going in that order. Did I say Michigan? I would go after the three he's got: Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, LSU, let's start over. Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, LSU, Michigan, Oregon, and you can have everyone else. I don't think anybody else has a chance. Miami, you don't have a chance. Florida State, you don't have a chance. I started to address these. There's a couple SEC teams. Texas A&M. They are an intriguing team. Texas A&M. They come to mind. Tennessee, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Florida. I think it was the real MVP was on here a couple weeks ago, and he pointed out that those schools, those 8-4 SEC schools, those 8-4 kind of schools, they are being given better odds by Vegas than Big 12 frontrunners. Auburn. I think we noticed that Auburn had a better chance of winning the CFP, according to Vegas, than anybody in the Big 12. Think of that. Auburn probably won't make the playoff. Auburn almost assuredly won't make the playoff. Auburn probably has a 10% chance of making the playoff. And then even if they do, they got to win 3 games, maybe 4. But they've got a better chance than anybody in the Big 12. I don't know that I would take it to that degree myself, but Vegas is. Yeah, I got to be careful knocking Miami. All right, folks, just wanted to go through that. So the exercise is basically, of course, he's out $615,000 if any of the teams we just mentioned win the national championship. He is banking on one coach who's won two national championships, and then obviously it would be a first for the other two, and that's not out of the realm of possibility. Of course, we will see future coaches, unless Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, and Ryan Day win all the national championships in the next 10 years. We are going to see a coach win a first national championship. And again, I believe that coach's name, well, for this season, would be Kalen DeBoer. Overall, I don't know that this is Oregon's year, but Dan Lanning, man, the guy's like 35 years old. I got to think time's on his side to win a national championship. We're only 6 months removed from people claiming that, oh, Ryan Day is never going to win a national championship. He can't do it. He's soft. He won't win a national championship. Good Lord. Did you see the Georgia game? And the guy's relatively young. Now, he may not be as young as his beard shows us that he is, but he's still a young guy. And this might be Ryan Day's only national championship. But I wouldn't make that bet unless he goes to the NFL. As Christopher is pointing out, and Christopher is accurate, no Big 12, according to Mark, in the next 10 years. No Big 12 team is going to win the college football playoff. That is correct, sir. And if I am wrong, then I will come on here and I'll fold my arms and I'll just take the ridicule and I'll just lean back in my chair and just do one of these and bring it on. All right, we got a few things, a few house cleaning items to take care of here. Steve Deace is coming on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, not 4, 2 p.m. Eastern on Thursday with Steve Deace. We're going to go through his power ratings. And also, I'm going to do this if it kills me, is sometime, hopefully before conference media days, we are going to go through all the national championships. It's almost apropos that Christopher Foot's comment is on the screen. Going to go through every national championship. If I have to sit here all night, or maybe we'll do a two-parter because I'm not the guy that sits here for 5 hours anymore. But anyway, go through all the national championships, go through every season, right the wrongs of college football, right the wrongs, revise the whole history of the sport. And then I got my why am I calling? They're not power rankings. My all-time program rankings. I have to work on those. We put too much time and effort into compiling all those numbers, not to produce videos and have live streams doing that as well. So, national championship revision, and then also the program rankings. We'll put all the conferences together. We've already done the Big 12. Check it out. We did a video on the Big 12, and I may have done a live stream on the Big 12 as well. So we've got to do the other ones, and we'll put them together, and we will unveil a top 20, top 25, something like that. Disputed national champions. Warm up for the program rankings and the national championship live stream revisions that we do by checking this one out. You can read this thing in like an hour. It's a concise yet thorough rundown of every season in the 90s and also projects forward into the current era. Disputed national champions, check it out. All right, my next stop is Miami Live at 7 Eastern, and then we've got the On the Move show with Leanne Herring. That's coming up 8:30 Eastern, right here at the Voice of College Football. We will see you soon.